episode of Library Bobbins. Today we're going to do the burrito pillowcase. It's a fun and easy project, and you'll learn how to do that along with French seams. What the whole goal of the way we sew this is so that you will have all your seams enclosed, and that way when you wash it, it won't ravel. So let's us begin. Okay, you're going to have a kit that will consist of fabric for a cuff. That's 9 by 42. You're going to have a trim piece, which is 2.5 by 42. And you're going to have the body of your pillowcase, which is roughly 27 inches by 42. Okay, let's get started. You're going to lay down your cuff. You're going to spread it all the way out. Find yourself a big area because it's 42 inches, so it's quite a ways. Then you're going to take your cuff, and if you get some help from mom or someone, you can press it in half. What we want to do is make sure that our raw edges, okay, not the fold part, but the raw edges meet along the edge of your, I'm trying to get this in focus here for you. So this is a single layer. Your pretty side is up. And we're going to start by laying this down. And we're going to go all the way across, making sure that our raw edges are together. Okay? If it helps, you can place clips every so often, or you can pin it. Okay? Then we're going to take the body of our pillowcase, and you want to open it up. So the long edge, and you want it, the pretty side, to face down. Okay? Make sure the pretty side faces down. And we're going to lay that on top, lining up the raw edges. Okay. Now I like to work from the center out, and I'm a pinner. So what you need to do, make sure all your raw edges are together, and you're going to start pinning from center out to the edge. Okay? And then I'm going to take you to the next step. Okay, you have it pinned across the top, all your layers. Now you're going to take the far side that's loose, and we're going to fold it in, or you can roll it, okay? I kind of give it a couple folds, and then I roll it, because the whole goal here is you want to have a nice roll of fabric right in the middle. We're going to sandwich that in between our cuff. So what you're going to do is you want to make sure that you have, from the edge here that you've pinned together, at least 1 inch to 2 inches free from this fabric. The reason you don't want to catch this in when you sew, because once we do our little burrito trick, we do not want to catch this. So what you're going to do is you're going to take your cuff. You've rolled this up so that you have exposed your cuff, and we're going to take and we're going to roll it over like we're wrapping a burrito, and we're going to repin all the way down, making sure that we have all the layers and we aren't catching what we've rolled. Okay? So go ahead and do that, and when we come back, we'll go to the sewing machine. Okay, you have your roll together. You have this part away from where you're going to sew, and make sure as you go feed it through your sewing machine that it stays away. Now, basically what I'm doing is I'm putting my edge of my fabric right at the edge of my presser foot. And I'm going to use this edge as my guide to come down the side of this burrito. So remember to take your straight pins out as you go. I'm just using a straight stitch. I'm going to back stitch at the beginning, at the end. You don't have to. I usually do, because the seam, it'll eventually be sewed in again. But I would play safe and back stitch at the beginning and at the end. Okay, and go ahead and stitch down the side. I'll just start here. I'm going to go down slow, and then I'm going to back stitch, and then I'm going to continue down the side of my burrito, and I'm going to take out pins as I go. So go ahead and do that, and when we come back, we'll do our little magic trick. Okay, I'm using a different example here so you can actually see better as I turn this. This is your inside area, and this is your cuff, and your trim is enclosed there. So what I did was I folded my cuff down a little bit to get it started, and then I had something to hold on to as I pulled my pillowcase out. Okay? So then you should have your cuff, your trim, and your pillowcase. Okay? Now, what I would do if you have access to an iron is to press this. And it might be easier to press it from the back, because your trim there will kind of hold your cuff in place, and just press it from this way. If you don't, just press it with your hand and kind of give it a finger press, and that'll hold it for the most part for what we're going to do next. Okay, so I'm just going down here and I'm finger pressing it, and then I'll go on to the other side and do the same. Okay, but a nice iron will work better, let me tell you. Okay, okay, so we are now going to talk about French felled seams. Now, the whole idea behind them is so that any of your raw edges will not be shown or exposed, because you can see right there, I don't know how well you can see, but it's fraying a little bit. Okay, fabric will do that. No, trim that off. Okay. So it might sound kind of odd, but what we're going to do is we're going to put our wrong sides together. And we're going to line up our seam here. We want to make sure it's nice and snug. Make sure it's lining up. Okay? And I would put my pin, first pin, right there in the crease. That way I know that when I turn that inside out, those two areas should match up. I'm double checking that. Okay, so I have my pin right there between my cuff and my trim. Okay, now I'm going to go down and I'm going to pin my edges together, and I'm going to pin across the bottom, and then I'm going to just sew a seam starting from at the top of my cuff. I'm going to back stitch, and I'm just going to sew all the way to the end. Then when I get to the bottom here, I could leave my needle down, turn, and continue across the bottom. So go ahead and do that, making sure that your wrong sides are together and your right sides are out. And then when we do that, I'll be right back and I'll show you what the next step is. So right now, pin your pieces together, then sew your two edges, and we'll be right back. Okay, I've sewed down my two sides, down the side and across the bottom. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to trim my seam, because what we're going to do is we're going to turn this wrong side out, and we're going to have the right sides together and the wrong side out, and we're going to stitch again to enclose our seam, and that's what's called a French seam. But first, what you're going to do, let me do it on the cuff so you can see it better. Okay, now if there's any stray threads, don't say that too fast, you're going to trim those off. But you want to come in, you want only about 1/8 of an inch by your stitching line, okay? And I think you can see that better here. I took and I cut off some of my thread. See, can you see that? My stitching line is still there, okay? It's the white there. And I trimmed off quite a bit, okay? Don't cut into your threads. Don't get too close. You want to stay about 1/8 of an inch out away from there, because when we do our next stitching, that will be enclosed. So go ahead and trim all the way around your pillowcase, and then we'll come back and I'll show you how to do the next step. Okay, I've trimmed my seams, and now I'm going to turn my pillowcase to the wrong side. Got to make sure I poke out my corners. Okay. And now you have the wrong side exposed. Okay, so if there is a few stragglers, you can always pull them out sometimes, or you have to trim them off, the threads. But what we're going to do now is we're going to take our seam and we're going to roll it in our fingers, and we're going to pin again down the side and across the bottom. And as you roll this, you're enclosing, when we sew it, you'll enclose that seam. And when we turn it back to the right side, it will be done. So go ahead and very carefully kind of work your fabric, roll it in your fingers so you get a nice seam there. You might have to push your hand in here and push out the seam. That's all to be expected. But if you kind of roll it and play with it a little bit, you can get it to line up there. And work your way all the way down and across the bottom. Pin it, and then as soon as it's pinned, again, you'll put it underneath. Line your presser foot up with the edge and stitch down the side and across the bottom, making sure that you anchor at the beginning, at the end. You want to make sure you backstitch, okay? That way it won't pull out for you or anything else with tugging and so forth. So please go down the side, pin it, and then across the bottom, pinning it. And then go ahead and stitch it. And when we come back, we'll turn them right side out and look at our finished pillowcase. Okay, I finished sewing my sides and across the bottom. I'm trimming any stray threads. Don't say that too fast. And now I'm going to turn it inside out, or right side out, I should say. And making sure I poke out my points. Okay. Now, if you look at your pillowcase, your seams are enclosed. No raw edges are exposed. And you have a very nice pillowcase of your own. And they make great gifts for other people. For Christmas this year, I helped my mother make 30 pillowcases for family members. So they do make nice gifts. They're easy. Make sure you check the instructions. I will give you the size of stitching I used and some other particulars. But you have done a French seam. And that scares a lot of people, but you've done it. I hope you enjoyed this class, and I hope you come back for the next one. I believe the next one is a zipper purse, or a zipper pouch, and it'll be interesting to put in a zipper. So thank you for coming with me on this project, and I hope to see you the next time. Thank you. Bye-bye.